Whenever I go to the store and I get like one of these tropical harvest mix, the hardest thing is not eating it all in one sitting. That's the most difficult thing. Delicious fruit snack that probably packed with sugar there. Robin Ludberg show back with you in full effect. I sound like an 80s rapper or something when I say that. And here's the Polar Seltzer, unofficial sponsor. One day there will be a title sponsor to this show that will pay me money to do so. That is a vow. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Anyhow, special guest again in the house today, Rosalina Lee. So the Robin and Rosie show, R&R, whatever we call it, RL squared something.
According to Tulip, I think it's RL squared.
Is it? Or like CC squared? Or what is it? C squared.
Spiffy haircut there.
Yeah, the whole joint got groomed up a little bit,
And that box of empty nut mix or whatever is pretty impressive.
It wasn't from today. Sugar. It wasn't from today. It was from yesterday.
That was from yesterday?
Yeah.
Still impressed. I thought that was I would have thought a little bit longer, but you know what? Congratulations. Get your protein in.
I lose track of days, to be honest with you, and sometimes I eat my first meal at this time, but I have to. I mean, the best way for me to lose weight is just not eat. Because everybody always talks about like exercise. Exercise doesn't matter.
I mean, 100%. It's food intake.
Yeah, it's good for your health, but I've always been, even when I'm heavier, I've never been in bad shape because my cardio base is so strong. Like I was a distance runner, a soccer player, and a basketball player. I'm playing basketball tonight. Like, so I never get winded or anything like that. I'm always in that kind of good shape. I could go run whatever, but it doesn't matter how much I exercise if I'm not eating right.
I mean, balance is honestly key because it's true. I mean, I'm telling you, I know for a fact that it's like weight is all about food, but health is about it's about mostly exercise balanced with food, but like you need them both,
Oh, I'm not anti-exercise, obviously.
Yeah. I know you're not. You're an Iron Man.
I rode my bike to get the haircut today. So and Rosalina, I live, not to give away my location, but I live on Hilltop Drive, which is off of Mountain Avenue. So anytime I'm getting home, there is quite a climb in order to do so.
Nice. Oh, wait. I'm also drinking my yerba mate, unsweetened, my guayaki yerba mate.
There you go. All right, let's get into why people are here. We'll talk some fever. We'll talk some WNBA. I'm going to talk a little radio business today just because there's a few things that intrigue me and I have personal connections to, but we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. I just know some of my OG fans might appreciate that a little bit. Fever bounced back, and the ramifications of it we'll discuss in a second. But I did a video yesterday, Rosie, like with the numbers, and they're all encouraging. Like all of the broad data says this is a very good Indiana Fever team. And without Caitlin Clark, obviously it's a different story, and we've seen how lost they've looked in her absence. But even just getting competency back in the backcourt made a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the most shocking element of all of the losses was losing to the Connecticut Sun, a winless team. And I think that not everybody goes into net ratings. Not everybody goes into defensive ratings. Not everybody goes into like what's going on offensively. A lot of people just go to the wins and the losses. And I can't like argue that losing to the Connecticut Sun did seem a little scary, even for me.
Sure, but I mean, I guess it's just like it's such a long season. Even the worst teams that have ever existed have a few wins over the course of a season.
Oh, I know, and I was looking at this Connecticut game as like, okay, I thought that their first win was going to come. Who was it that they played? I think it was the Wings. I thought that was going to be the Connecticut Sun's first win because like they kind of are due for one. Like they almost won 2 games, but like blew a couple leads. And so I'm sitting here thinking they're going to win against the Dallas Wings. When that didn't happen, I'm like, oh God, this is like the Fever are vulnerable right now. This could happen. This could happen.
In that just to go back to that game for a second, it was one of those cases of whatever can go wrong will go wrong because Colson got hurt at the very beginning. So your backup point, like whatever you think about Sydney Colson, she's certainly more capable of running the position than somebody who doesn't play the position, right? So she goes down, and then Boston gets in foul trouble. And I think the combination of those two things really was a blow. And look, again, you need to win the games. I'm not even making excuses. I'm just saying when you look at the broad data sample, the team was the second best team in the league when Caitlin Clark was in the lineup. They've been the third best team in the league overall by the broad statistics, and they haven't lost a game by more than 6. So, there's nothing to be panicked about in a broad sense. And then you get Ari McDonald playing the way she did on the hardship contract, which we'll get into in a second. And I think there were 2 other big storylines from last night's game. Kelsey Mitchell finally getting out of that slump, and Lexi Hull has just been balling.
I'm going to say this. This is a very unpopular opinion, but I'm looking at all the players that played in Unrivaled, a league that I viewed as a developmental league, and a lot of the players are having big leaps this season. Like, think about Aaliyah Boston. While, they didn't do necessarily like great and Unrivaled, like, I don't know what it is. If it was like playing up against the like top players of the team and like really, like battling for, any placement there, or if it's the cardio, but like Aaliyah Boston having a leap, a leap season.
Mm-hmm.
Lexi Hull, who else was in? Courtney Williams. Like, the way she plays the point now is so different than the way she played the point last season. Nafisa Collier, I mean, hey, she still does. Can you be better than last season? She's doing it. Mm-hmm. Who else was in? Yeah, like Alicia Gray. Ryan Howard is a little streaky, but she still has had some pretty crazy games. But Alicia and Ryan were both good last season too. I just don't see them like dipping. The only person I can think of that gives me pause is Dejanay Carrington, but I think that she's finding her rhythm,
Well, yeah, she finds her rhythm with a wind up. And
what? She's aggressive, but like, I don't think it's purposeful. You know what I'm saying? I think that she may want to stop, contesting shots from behind on people that are 2 feet taller than her, because that's not really a recipe for success, like the Jessica Shepard one in the Lynx game.
I would use reckless, I think, is a proper term. There were a few I thought that was a reckless closeout on Gabby Williams. I mean, that's what you call it in the NBA, like a reckless closeout. That's what I thought it was. And I think some of those plays that she's making while she's making them on the ball, there's a wind up that goes into it, and she doesn't necessarily seem to care so much whether she actually hits the ball.
Yeah, I think that reckless is a good way to describe it. I think that, but I don't fall into she's doing it on purpose. I think that she's just like not really considering the ramifications of what her like play on the ball like is, even if it's a dangerous play.
Well, yeah, and then she, she has a penchant for stirring it up a little bit. I mean, even to go on.
She sure does. She sure does.
She turned it into a story herself by going online and saying something about it, right? Like, because people are going to say, I talked about this yesterday, and I've talked about this a million times. You've heard this rant from me, but like, when you amplify like random tweets as if they're, nobody was really, some people online were talking about it, but it wasn't like leading Sports Center that Dejanay Carrington was a dirty player or is a dirty player or anything like that. And she did it after Fever games last year. She's done it, even the whole Uber driver thing over the break.
Yeah, that was weird. That was weird.
So she just has a penchant for putting herself out there in that sense. And then again, like grabbing on to some things that people say online and making it bigger than necessarily it is, which I think is a tale for the WNBA as a whole. I mean, I think
it really
as someone who's...
I was actually going to say that when you were finished. It's like they just don't have the same media training. And I think the exposure, the like extreme like exposure to the league, to like the masses was very quick. And it's people don't change overnight, and it's not, you don't have to change, but if you want your life to be calmer, there has to be like a closing of like a curtain between you and social media, and when you enter like, the public space with a lot of eyes.
I say this as someone who's chronically online because I'm chronically online to gather information. Do you know how many things I just scroll past? Like there are so many things. The Caitlin Clark carrying the baby thing. Like I just scrolled past it. So many different things because if you were to then go into the comment section of a particular post, you can make every fan base look horrendous. You can make everyone look horrendous. And not to excuse people shit posting or saying terrible things. That's not the point. The point is, I had this back and forth with someone yesterday. Like the Fever game on Ion was the highest rated game of the year without Caitlin Clark on Ion, right? Remember, somebody was like, well, all the Fever fans are saying they're not going to watch anymore and they only watch Kids of Kate. And I'm like, what matters more, ratings and ticket sales or random tweets, right? Like you can find random tweets of people saying they're only watching for Caitlin Clark or they're abandoning ship or the rest of the WNBA sucks. But the broad data set shows you that the Clark and Fever fans have supported the product more than anybody else and helped raise the level of the product more than anyone else. Same thing goes for, I'm not sitting here and painting all Chicago Sky fans saying that all Sky fans cry racism when none exists, or whatever the case may be on a specific topic and thing. And with the WNBA, I've never seen a league that is more consumed by the tweets than the streets. You know what I'm saying? Like what is actually happening versus what is being typed on a computer.
I guess like the difference between the WNBA and other leagues is like you're watching the manifestation of a league become like a corporation as opposed to a small, startup league that it could have been considered before, and this is an uncommon thing and an uncommon time in a lot of leagues to watch this happening. And it's such a weird, like it's happening in such a weird way where a lot of the focus is like focused on mostly one team and then mostly on one player. So there's a lot of like weird things happening in this league that I don't think that a lot of people have seen necessarily happen in the growth of many things, like, aside from maybe like golf with Tiger. Yeah, I don't know. But golf is like not a team sport and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's nuances.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, the Wings stink.
Okay, wait, where did that come from?
They just do.
With Jesus Chris?
Yeah, I mean, poor guy feels out of his depth.
Nah, he needs to yell at somebody to get out of that pigeonholing he's in.
Sorry, I'm answering a text for you. Say something about the Wings coach for me for a second.
Oh, Chris Kuklanis, Jesus Chris. Yeah, I don't know. I think he seems like a real nice guy, with his man bun and his affirmative statements of energy and positivity. But I think that when you're in the WNBA or in any professional league, you need to check a little bit at the door and make sure that the positivity is there, but the competitive fire reigns supreme.
Also, like it's a little bit of like general manager about practice to saddle him with some of the situations that he's been saddled with in the first year on a team.
I mean, I sort of put this on what's his name? Kurt Miller. Because like what?
Yeah, well, they got a rookie on that team. One other rookie. Before we get back to the Fever for a second, I want to give a shout out to Kiki Iriafen because she's really like impressed me. She's much better than she was at USC, and I know sometimes like players' game translates better to the pros because they're not in as much of a system, or they are allowed to showcase themselves with more space, better teammates, and the like. But I was never that impressed with her at USC. I don't know if that was Gottlieb playing alongside Juju, but even when Juju went out, same deal. And she looks like she is destined to be a force and one of the best bigs in the league nearly immediately.
It's crazy. It's actually crazy because yeah, when she transferred from Stanford, everybody thought that she was going to do great because oh my God, she gets to play next to Juju Watkins. But I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was that Juju was just that good that it became hard for Kiki to, and their play styles are that different that it became hard for Kiki to shine because, her playing next to Cameron Brink, like it seemed she did pretty well at Stanford doing that. But so when she did, come into the W, I didn't have like the highest expectations for her. And because of that, she's exceeded them like significantly, and the conversation keeps going back and forth depending on what week it is between her and Sonia Citron.
Yeah.
So this week it's Kiki's week. Kiki.
I mean, Citron always looked like a player that I thought would translate well to the pros, but certainly has. Now, last thing before we get to the chats, member chats, super chats, we'll go first. The roster decision for the Fever. You wrote about this, Indiana Fever on SI. Link is in the description. Also, there's a link to a piece on Lexi Hull from Lou Orlando. Welcome aboard, Lou Orlando and Nick Guzman, who have just started churning some stuff out. But basically, like, I think this time period emphasized that they really needed that specific player, right? That specific position.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they had a dearth at that spot. And they also have a redundancy in the front court in the sense that Michaela Timpson doesn't play, Brianna Turner doesn't play, and they're the same player. I mean, you could obviously Timpson has more of a ceiling in the future, but same archetype player, and neither is playing. It may be, something that the Fever have to revisit here.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would be shocked at this point if they didn't cut Turner for McDonald. Like I really would. And it has only been one game, and it was exciting to see. And the reason it was so exciting was because it was such a like gaping hole that was missing in the Indiana Fever backcourt, and a hole that was like there since possibly even before Caitlin Clark went out, because they were trying to like run her off ball, and so trying to put someone else in that playmaking offensive like orchestrating position, and it wasn't working very well. But when she went out, it was just like absolutely like glaringly like bright in your face. And then to have the backups that weren't even necessarily doing that well go out, it was just like, okay, something needs to be done. And Ari McDonald, she just, I think that she became this like beacon of hope to a team that had been like, kind of like, to a fan base that had been, kind of like, not to sound too dramatic, but beat down since 10 hours after their first big win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, it's become this like bright spot in the fan and the Indiana Fever future for a lot of fans.
Well, I mean, look, McDonald did shoot 2 of 7 from the floor. Not
that's not where she made her impact. I'm sure you're
no,
gonna
of
say
course not.
I'm
I'm
sure
just
you're gonna
saying
say that,
she obviously she said she was in survival mode in an audition, and she so she played super hard. She put her body on the line. She knew how to run the team. And I agree with your sentiment. I'm just saying, we don't want to go too far
No.
overboard in the
And
other
that's what I'm
direction.
saying. It is just one game. Like, but I think like what the game represents is different than like, what she showed on the court. But I think that the fact that the Fever, whether or not it's because of Ari or not, but like it sure seems like her, she was setting the pace for the team. She's quick, she like buzzes around like Kelsey Mitchell almost, she keeps up the pace like that. And that is something that the Indiana Fever have been wanting to do, again, and haven't really like executed that well, especially since Homegirl went out.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's they didn't have anybody competent, and she's faster, and she's capable. Really. And when
Takes the shots too.
yeah, not afraid.
Sacrifices her body. Those were shocking. I was like, wow, salute.
She took some tough charges in that game. I mean, how many offensive fouls has she drawn already?
I don't know how many, but I know that like she is the big in the top 10 now of drawing offensive fouls.
Lexi Hull's number 1.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the chat. Member chats, super chats go first as always. So if you want to make sure your comment is read, that's how you do it. Like, subscribe, click all the things that one does. Kevin, Sup, R&R. Is it safe to say I can finally relax and step off this ledge? The Fever's early struggles have had me on. Yeah, I think you're good, Kev.
I mean, teams go through a lot of adversity. It just so happens that this one was like a big, like, shock and awe style adversity with, like, the biggest player going out at a time you would never have like thought that she would go out, like the star, the cornerstone of the team.
Well, and fans, look, when you have more fans, you're gonna have more over the top reactions. Like with more comes more of everything, right? Like you don't get to pick and choose what there's more of. There's always more of everything, and I learned it last year because Fever fans, crashed out very early in the season last year, and it did look bleak. Don't get me wrong. At the beginning of last season, where you're starting to think, okay, Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark, can they play together? But look at that turnaround, and this team is so clearly better than last year's team. I mean, Lexi Hull's a better player than she was last year. Aaliyah Boston is a better player than she was last year, and the upgrades are still the upgrades. Remember, this was a team that was playing Katie Lou Samuelson and Christy Wallace and Melissa Smith. I mean, just a recipe for disaster defensively and speed-wise out on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on everything you said. I think that the reservations, we're always going to critique a team when we watch them. As much as I want Tawana Bonner to fit into this system, the more I watch her, the more I wonder if she does. And it has a lot to do with her speed. It has a lot to do, and I think that her speed and her inability potentially to keep up with the style that they want to play is creating a lot of frustrations. And she's not getting called for fouls either, and that's super duper frustrating. And she was on a team last season where I don't think she had that issue. And I see her getting really upset on the court about it. She has a little Skylar Diggins coming out in her. But yeah, the more I watch her play and I watch her maneuver on the court, the more I actually question. And again, this isn't a solid opinion. It's just something I'm starting to really think about, is whether or not she fits into the fast-paced run and gun, read and react, like all those things, like that system.
Though I really, really like her length and rebounding. Like there's games where I forget what it was, actually the Liberty game that I was at, where I think she had 3 points in that game, but I felt like she made a huge impact in that game.
Huge. She made a huge. But yesterday, do you remember when there was like six second chance points that the Washington Mystics were getting? There were Indiana Fever players around that basket, and they couldn't like catch a rebound for the life of them.
I feel like the real question is Bonner and Howard. It's like they can't play together, I don't think, which we saw at the beginning of the season change when Lexi Hull went in. And Howard does not play particularly well with Boston either. So how, what's the right mix of those play? Because you see them sort of splitting the minutes right now. And that's where I wonder if it winds up being one or the other somehow.
I'm feeling like Howard does her best when Caitlin's there. And I don't know if it's, I don't know. I mean, who doesn't, kind of in a way, but like, I really think that her success, like, has so far in my, in just what I've seen, been dependent on Caitlin a lot.
99 Problem says, is there a scenario that the Fever keep Ari McDonald? Oh, we just talked about it. Yeah, the scenario is they have to cut somebody else. I mean, and I think it is a realistic scenario at this point in time, considering the lack of production from Bree Turner, the lack of minutes from both Turner and Timpson, and the clear need in the backcourt.
Yeah, I mean, wait, sorry, can you repeat that?
So
I was reading one of the chats. And it was about
Turner,
F1, and I was like, "Ooh,
that's going up next."
Is he still on McLaren?
The big super chat. It's on deck. so it's going to get read on the screen.
No, it was
But
long, so I was like reading it and I couldn't.
no, I'm saying, yeah, it is a scenario now. Well, like if this was a 12-player roster, it wouldn't matter because then Jaylen Brown or somebody would have been in that spot, right? Like that's the difference, an 11-player roster. But they carried 2 players who are similar, who are neither playing, and they show we've seen a glaring need in the roster. So, I mean, it's easy to say from our vantage point, but it seems like somebody, either McDonald or somebody like McDonald, is more of a need than Turner and Timpson.
So I'm actually glad that we're revisiting this, and I didn't, just like space completely out without you reminding me of what you were talking about, because I kind of think that the Indiana Fever, they set themselves up in a way so that if it didn't work out with Sid Colson, if it didn't work out with Brianna Turner, Brianna Turner was was she in a trade? She was, right? Or was she just a pickup?
No, she was just signed. She was one of the
signed.
They signed Howard, Bonner, Colson, and Turner. Cunningham was the one that came in on the trade.
Yeah. So I think that they set themselves up to, if things did not work out, they set them up on unprotected contracts because, the fact that they signed Sid Colson, we don't know if, the Las Vegas Aces were or were not like planning on, letting her go anyway. But they signed her, because they were looking for championship experience. They thought Indiana thought maybe they could use them in a way that the Aces didn't need necessarily, because the Aces had Chelsea Gray, the Aces had Jackie Young. So the Aces weren't really utilizing Sid Colson and her like quote unquote, and even though she was had championship pedigree at that point. And I don't think it worked out, but I'm trying to say like what they were thinking, but they also set themselves up to get out of the situation if it didn't work by signing her to an unprotected contract.
Well, a lot of their players are on unprotected contracts. I'm trying to.
That's true. DeWanna Bonner,
Caitlin Clark.
But, Aaliyah Boston.
Yeah. So I mean, part of that's just the ruthless nature of the WNBA as well. Here's the chat that was in question. AJ Schreiber, thank you, AJ. I'm curious if you'd like to revisit your hot take about Lando Norris being better than Oscar Piastri. McLaren clearly have the best car, but do you think Lewis Hamilton will be able to turn things around for Ferrari? They look lost. I mean, the way I look at it is you're only as good as your car. Like, to me, are there that many discernible differences in the drivers? I feel like the differences in the equipment are more significant than the differences in the drivers. Now, the best driver with the best equipment is the one best equipped to win.
Well, what about what's his name? Oh my God, the guy with the curly hair, when he was at Red Bull and he just kind of started sucking. And Max Verstappen, obviously Max Verstappen, like totally like totally dominating. I haven't like followed it in like a year or two or whatever, but what's his name? Is his name Richard or Ricardo? Ricardo. He keeps getting cut and like bouncing around. I think it was at McLaren.
Daniel Ricciardo.
Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah. I feel like he's a show of like a player that has been in a lot of different cars, but hasn't been the best. So I think he's a testament to the talent of the driver, but I do think, because like Mercedes, when they were pouring all that money into Mercedes and then they got cut off from being able to spend like $5.8 billion on each car, they just started kind of, sucking.
A Ferrari, a Jaguar, switching 4 lanes with the top down, screaming out money, anything. All right, let's get into the member chats. Super chats go first. Those were the super chats. Next super chat goes up, obviously. But we'll get to some of the member chats. Athena, hey, R squared, what's going on?
Hello, Athena.
Matthews Muses says, good day.
Good day, y'all.
Ernesto says, I think you mean fired because you're in the chat during your workday, but maybe fried. I don't know. Maybe a combination of both. Don't Elon Musk yourself up too high there, Ernesto. Stay grounded. Stay with us here, buddy. Ernesto lost a finger. Rosalina.
Oh, that's the guy? I remember Ernesto.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well, Ernesto.
Ernesto is a loyal fan. I mean, he goes back to the days of the radio stuff I'm going to get to in a minute. Athena also says DC is careless and needs some ramifications for reckless behavior before someone really gets hurt. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's like even taking shots at her. They're just like, yo, that's
Reckless.
part of the game. Matthews muses, can we be honest, until Adam Silver replaces the W commissioner, none of this will change. I did see the interview with Engelbert the other day, and she did that whole thing where she was like, yeah, the whole league is growing Ellie the elephant and other, like with
Seriously.
no mention of like no singling out of Kate. Like that's one of my favorite bits is like when Caitlin Clark's last name became and Angel Reese, and the 2024 rookie class.
I know. She's like Voldemort. No, that was interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think she's trying to keep the peace, but at the same time, you got to just like recognize the bottom line, I guess. I don't know.
Diana Noble says, when I see Ari, I see a bright future for shorts. Like
5'6", baby. I think they're the same size. They are the same size. Yeah, 5'6".
Look, I mean, it's not like it's a bunch of trees out there either. I mean, for the most part, who's like the tallest players
I'd
in the
love
league?
to see her go up against New York. Everyone in New York is like a tree.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I think the shortest person in New York is it's Tosh Cloud now. But it used to be Sabrina, who was like, I think 6 foot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tall team across the board. Even their wings, like Phoebich and
Yeah,
are tall. AJ Schreiber. Yeah, he helped it be a F1 takeover, obviously, but that's the super chats and the member chats go first. Now I'll get back up to the top. This is what happens when you self-mod. I saw somebody's comment saying that I'm a member of the WNBA and IWC. That was pretty funny, just because IWC stands for the Internet Wrestling Community. Rosalina, if you
I didn't know that.
And you see that's another crazy fan base, like, and the Internet Wrestling
for men.
yeah, but like just like the whole drama and the politics and everything that goes on there, plus the ego in a sense.
Oh, I know that guy, Michael Deaton. Deaton? I don't know. I hope I'm saying it right. Yeah, I see you a lot.
So some of the wrestling fans, they don't understand. Like Jey Uso is a good example. You hear me say yeet at the end of shows. He is the guy that does yeet, and my kids love yeet, and Raj loves yeet, and like loves Jey Uso. And every time he comes out, the crowd cheers him. But the internet wrestling community hates him because he's not a good worker. Like meaning his matches are not great. Like he's not great in the ring.
Not blue collar.
Well, yeah, yes. Too based on his entrance, too based on his catchphrase, that kind of deal.
Vadim just called out my F-bomb yesterday. I hailed an F-bomb on a live.
I don't know why. What is the woke garbage in here? Matthews muses that. Member chats, super chats first. Working my way. Here's your guy, Mike Hall. Last night's win gave CC no play anxiety a big relief. She was probably stressing on not being able to support the team on the court.
And not being able to yell at them in front of all the fans. I'm kidding. Get your ish together.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the storm yet. I've seen a couple people bring it up. I don't really know what's going on there. It obviously has something to do with Lee Euro, in my opinion. Clearly something maybe to do with even China and that aspect. So I don't know how much it is like a callback to Jewel Lloyd versus a new thing based on this, because and by the way, this is me speculating. So let me be very clear. I don't have the actual information, but the timing seems way too coincidental for her to request a trade and then this to happen at the same time. So
when you say China, though, what do you mean?
I saw some people reporting that perhaps like there was maybe a tacit agreement that she would play more, that kind of thing. And so, and then also for her not playing I think she chose to play here rather than there as part of it too. So I don't know if, that's part of the details of maybe broken agreement or broken trust promises. Again, pure speculation, but I don't know if it's the same thing. It's not great for the Storm, don't get me wrong, to have an investigation after the other investigation just happened, but I don't know if it's necessarily A to A from what happened with, or what Jewel Lloyd accused them of. Shout out to Deaton for reminding me to tell you about the new Netflix doc called F1, the Academy. It covers the women's Formula One series. It's fantastic and great to see women's sports getting more coverage. You know, AJ must be doing really well with his Hammer Time Hits business. So shout out to him. Make sure you follow it. AJ, since this show started, so Rosalina, when you see, Ernesto's been following me from the beginning, but you see Kevin, he's been one of my biggest fans. And AJ reached out to me when I did like a show kind of bearing my soul. And he made a analogy to a donut shop in Chicago that he thought everyone thought was doing well. And then it all of a sudden shut down. And then the community came to support it and it reopened. And he said I was the donut shop at that point in time. But AJ, Kevin, and myself have a group chat that goes on throughout the entire day. But since this has all started, Kevin has launched his wrestling YouTube channel, The Fast Count, and he is currently in class right now, learning to be a social media manager, while AJ is started his own card breaking business, Hammer Time Hits, where he is, I think he specializes in F1 breaks, but he breaks cards.
Breaks?
So this is when you get like a box of trading cards and you open them and people bid on the contents of the, because the rarer the card, the more it's worth. So he then sells off the product that he's breaking. I think that is kind of the way it works. He can clarify if not. But my point is, in this journey, everybody's like gone and launched and done their own thing.
Nice. Well, congratulations, everybody. Congratulations, AJ. Congratulations, Kevin.
Due to his super chats, I'm assuming that Hammer Time Hits is doing well. Charles 19 says, "You're good, Rosie."
F-bombs happen. Well, and especially for me, they happen when I watch sports.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they happen for my 4-year-old, so you know it is what it is. Like you know when.
I try to keep it as clean as possible in the videos, just, you know, because I know everybody has different stuff. But believe me, after these videos, I go out. I have wine sometimes, and there are occasional bad words said out of this mouth.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're not a nun.
I'm not a saint.
Who's not allowed to curse? Are there people that aren't allowed to curse? You know what was impressive on the new Clips record? So Malice, who is Pusha T's brother, when the Clips came out, they were they're basically like Coke Rap brothers from Virginia, right? Produced by Pharrell, the Neptunes, but they were great in their heyday, and Pusha T's continued his solo career. But since Pusha T became a solo artist, one of the reasons he became a solo artist is because his brother Malice became like a pastor or some shit, and he was out of the game for like 15 years, and now he's back, and the Clips are putting out a reunion album. And you can tell, you know, in the verse, it's hard as hell. Malice's verse is hard as hell. Like, drugs kill my teen spirit. Welcome to Nirvana. You was Fuji Lala. I was Alibaba. Dressed in House of Gucci, made from selling Lady Gaga. But like, you know, hard bars like that in the song, but he doesn't curse at all.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, me and him.
No, July 11th. July 11th. And I don't know if you know this about this album either, Rosalina, but the record, they got dropped from they got out of their contract because they have a Kendrick Lamar feature on there, but their record label did not want them to put it. They wanted them to censor it first, and Pusha T said no. And then they just wanted them to not use it, and Pusha T said no. And that's because I guess the label was concerned of the optics of Pusha and Kendrick being on a track together, both guys who destroyed Drake. And, you know, Drake has this lawsuit going against UMG, Universal Music Group, over the diss records and the like that are going on. So they got paid 7 figures to get out of their deal and now they're on a distribution deal with Jay-Z and Rock Nation, and that's where the album is going to come out.
So them, AJ, Kevin, everyone's doing good. Call them to the group chat.
And the last thing I wanted to talk about real quick was like a radio business. Like this cracked me up. Let me play you this. Let me pull up this clip real quick because I couldn't help but laugh. I don't even know if I should be talking about this stuff, but this cracked me up, Rosalina, because when I was at ESPN, the rule was firmly no politics. Like, and I used to get admonished even when I don't even talk about this stuff anymore because I became like the people from the Big Lebowski, like the nihilist, like I care about nothing, Lebowski, you know, like because I realized everybody was crazy. But there was a period of time where I was
Twitter.
I was much more passionate, and I would get scolded for what I said on Twitter. And now on First Take, they're like talking about Ukraine and Russia.
You see Stephen A. trying to negotiate the Ukraine-Russia situation? Stephen A. get in the middle of that?
I wouldn't try to negotiate it.
What would you do?
I wouldn't try to negotiate it.
What would you do?
I would work with the European Union. I would work with the United Nations. I would do what I could to empower us. I don't want to give Ukraine unlimited funds, but I know that Russia's ultimate quest is to recapture Europe.
There you go.
And I don't want that to happen. Therefore, I would help out Ukraine.
Yeah, there you go.
Very simple.
We're not getting into politics.
All right, yeah, you're not getting
into politics. Only we just dropped a bomb and then we block you.
and that comes the same day that it was announced that Stephen A. is going to be in the midday slot on Mad Dog Radio, where I work, and I fill in for that show all the time.
Yeah.
And they found out about it apparently today, but they talked about it live on the air. But it also brought it full circle to me because I also once lost a job because Stephen A. Smith came back. That's why Rucco and Lundberg, the show I did with Ryan Rucco, ended when Stephen A. came back. So seeing that happen on the same day, one, Stephen A. Smith comes and a show changes as a result, and also Stephen A. Smith just talking about Ukraine and Russia on First Take when I used to get texts from the bosses like, don't say that, don't do that, what are you doing? It just kind of made me laugh.
I mean, the climate of the climate politically about what you can and can't say and what you should be saying, and if silence is violence, it changes so often. And I don't know, I feel like a lot more mainstream things have a certain, opinion. A lot of them, they tend to kind of go together. But yeah, I like to keep the politics out.
That's it. We're done. We're done with that. Yeah, I got to that point too where I just stopped.
No, I can't. I honestly just can't, and I won't. I think it limits who you're able to relate to.
Well, and yeah, I think that's important too because that is one of the lessons I learned. Like this idea of just, I do think being maybe it's naive or not cynical enough. But I do think people are more alike than they get credit for.
I think so too.
Doing a show like this has really taught me that, especially with the inflammatory remarks about Clark fans and Fever fans, not to mention that going against the way I grew up, and the environments that I grew up in, which is nothing so just the places I've been, the people I've seen, the people I've interacted with and talked to, I actually feel better about the human spirit as a result. Shouts to Ken Swift, by the way, because I did on the
everyone got one of those shirts except me.
Oh, he's gonna have to send it.
You know why? It's because I actually misplaced the shirt that he sent me, and I was looking everywhere for it and I couldn't find it. I was actually nervous that I was gonna have to tell him I lost it, but I didn't, and I just found it and I just washed it. So I will probably wear it to the next live. Just to support, the thieves.
It says less drama, more basketball, which I agree with. Which, by the way, Candace Parker, I thought she said it really well. She was on First Take yesterday, and she said, let's keep it about basketball. She said she's not resentful about Caitlin Clark or any of the other stuff. Why would she be that way? Cheryl Miller wasn't that way toward her, which I thought was cool. And then she doubled down on that. Let's keep it about basketball because, rivalries. And she said rivalries are great, which I agree with too. It's just the hysteria and the socio-political ramifications of a foul, or when it goes too far.
And honestly, I don't care I've gone like back and forth, been like, I don't know why Caitlyn and Angel are rivals. And at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Like, so what if they are? Like, it just doesn't have to be blown up.
They're rivals because of the college moment and
Yeah,
because they came
and
into the
it is
league
what
at
it
the same
is.
time. There's
But-
nothing. There's more. There's nothing. It's this, and they're in the same draft class. That's why they're rivals.
But it's also like, you know, you could also say, well, okay, well, who is an actual rival to Angel Reese or to Caitlin Clark? It would be Paige Beckers, and then you have Paige Beckers going, we play nothing alike. We're not like rivals, and it's like, what are the limitations? So in my opinion, it's like, who cares? Like, let's just like play basketball. I don't know.
Well, and I think we are there. The Fever, by the way, played the Chicago Sky on Saturday. You can get into the building at United Center for like $9 now.
Oh man, I could probably get a ticket to Chicago for like 50 too. Oh no, now that it's like getting warmer, it's more expensive.
Yeah.
I remember checking tickets to Chicago one time. I live in Brooklyn, and I think it was like $50, $55 just to fly to Chicago. Not bad.
Angel's biggest rival is an open hoop, says AJ. Oh, he has to come in. He paid for it, so I have to put it on the screen. I'm sorry. I mean that, but you know what? Like, I remember, I forget who it was. I saw somebody like, what if we put together a compilation of all Caitlin's missed threes? Go for it. That's what I would say. Go for it. Share it. Like it's like mocking and belittling and demeaning is one thing. Having a little fun on hoops discourse is another thing.
Having fun and is one thing, but I really, I don't know. I'm not into the mocking. It's not my style.
No, I agree. And look, people do put Angel Reese into things that she doesn't need to be in, or draw implications on, or go after her in a way. I mean, look, if you measured the number of coverage, the amount of coverage she got on the internet space, like negative versus positive, it probably does sway very negative. Versus when you're just talking about the fact that a big should not be shooting 33% or 32% on layups.
I mean, okay, I posted something on Twitter. I don't think it even was centered around Angel at all. And one of the Angel fans got into my Twitter and said, "You're just diminishing Angel's whatever." And I was like, "Okay, how am I doing that?" And then couldn't really answer me a straight answer. And then I said, "Okay, well, give me an example." And then it was like, I'm going to go look at this person. Her content is all diminishing Angel's reputation in this. And I was like, okay, well, just give me an example. And she's like, be right back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming for you kind of thing. It wasn't I'm coming for you, but it was like, I'm going to bring receipts. She couldn't find anything, not one thing. And this
wasn't that net girl, was it?
This was when I gave a shout out to Quita. My post was give a shout out to Quita. She, you know what I mean? She's a cool person. She's a Sky fan, but she's not biased. And then all of a sudden I'm getting hate mail from the Angel fans. And I'm like, oh God, okay, I guess. But anyway, right. I stopped responding after that. And then her and another fan kept going in my chats talking about me. And I was like, I'm not even looking at this anymore.
That'll about do it, I think, guys. Got another minute or two. Super chats, member chats go first. I got to a bunch of the chats. Just a kid from Brooklyn. Lexi Hull's development has been a game changer this year. Coach Sides holding her back last year for Wallace and Samuelson was diabolical. Look, she's an indispensable player for the Fever. I would say she's such a glue synergy piece. And that Lou Orlando wrote about Lexi Hull. Link in the description below. Indiana Fever on SI. Rosalina wrote about Ari McDonald and the possibility of the Fever, making a roster switch and change. I think I linked your Dijonay thing in there as well. But a bunch of different stuff available to check out in the link. Diana says would love for the emo vibe and the W to just fade. Is it Keita or Quita? Quita. Quita gets a shout out. She does seem like cool peeps. I don't know her at all, but I thought it was uncool what happened to her on the internet space last week or 2 weeks ago or whenever that was. But yeah. Anything else, Rosalina? Why don't you plug the channel again, of course?
Rosalina Lee. Yeah. We don't need to plug it every time, but I am Rosalina Lee. You can follow my channel.
You probably should plug it every time. I mean, I would say
I know I'm bad. I'm bad at that kind of stuff.
I'm bad at it too, but I'm telling you my advice as someone who is bad at it, that you should definitely do it.
Understandable. Understandable. Well,
All
thanks
right,
for
y'all.
having me. It
Of
was
course.
fun.
That will do it for us here today. Until the
See
next
you
one.
later, chat. Bye, AJ. Bye, Tulip. Bye, Kevin.
Yeet.
Bye.